What's going on? Culturedog Sam Hatch back with another video, and this time we're going to do a Blu-ray spotlight video. And I just happen to get in my grubby little mitts some new Blu-rays. We're going to start with one from 1995. And it's a film I remember going to see at least twice in the theaters back in the day. I was a big fan of the TV show, which it was spun off from. And of course, I'm talking about Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. That's the first Tales from the Crypt theatrical release from the spawn from the HBO series. There was a Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror series of movies back in the 70s. I believe it was Amicus put that together. Those are also very good. But the HBO series did a lot of great adaptations of stories from not just Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror, but all sorts of stuff. Two-Fisted Tales and all sorts of magazines from the EC Comics pantheon. And I'd been watching the show pretty faithfully. I probably had petered out towards like maybe seasons 5 through 7, and I just started watching those the past couple of years when the DVD box sets came out, and I started picking those up. But when I heard about this film, it just kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I thought, all right, well, we'll go check it out. It's a horror flick. I didn't really expect too much from it, and I was surprised, as was everyone else. It was a really, really capable, interesting monster thriller, and Ernest Dickerson, who had done stuff like Surviving the Game before that, just kind of jumped right into the horror genre with this, and did a cool job. And it's a siege picture. It's the tale of this drifter, played by William Sadler. Again, no stranger to Tales from the Crypt. He was in like one of the first 3 episodes. And, he had been coming off of doing things like Death and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And he was the kind of anti-hero of this saga, this guy cruising around the highway to Filter. The first time I ever heard Hey Man, Nice Shot was blaring across the soundtrack in the movie theater. So he comes tear-assing into this town called Wormwood, New Mexico, and lo and behold, there's Billy Zane chasing after him, and you don't know why or what's going on, but William Sadler seems like a sketchy enough character on his own, and he's trying to break into cars, and everybody's wondering what he's doing, and Dick Miller, classic genre film actor, helps him out and shows him to this local hotel, which is based out of an old church. CC Pounder, the H is apparently silent, I've learned, is another great character actress running this place, and that's what makes the siege picture work, is once all these characters are in this location, it really doesn't vary from it for the rest of the running time, which is relatively short, about what's our total? 93 minutes. So it's pretty lean and mean and just strikes fast. But once all these characters are together in this environment, they're there. So there has to be a quality group of actors. And you've got Charles Fleischer, Roger Rabbit. You've seen him doing some creepy stuff in Zodiac not too long ago. He's great as this kind of sad sack postal worker that's carrying a flame for the local prostitute, Brenda Backey, who I had already seen and really enjoyed in Gunhead, this cool Japanese robot picture. And she was also great as Selena in American Gothic, one of my favorite shows, which I think came out after this. But so she's really good in it. Sadler's great. Dick Miller's great. And then you've got Thomas Hayden Church rolling in as this super douche, basically. And he quite enjoys the services of Brenda Backey's character. And then the unlikely heroine of the saga, an ex-con played by Jada Pinkett, Pri Smith, is in the film, and she reluctantly gets involved, and come to find out she's maybe more of the hero of the piece than William Sadler is. But what's this all mean? Billy Zane rolls into town, and he's looking for this mysterious object that William Sadler has, and Billy Zane may or may not be a collector of all sorts of occult objects, because he's going to raise a bunch of demons and pretty much cause an apocalypse. So when he does raise said demons, in a nice homage to Jason the Argonauts, the original Ray Harryhausen special effects laden version, once he does raise these creatures, everyone's trapped in this building, and everyone has a different idea of how to survive. William Sadler has a little bit more knowledge under his belt as to what this all is and how to protect everybody from it. But of course, nobody wants to listen to him because he's the newbie. And then from that point on, you think, all right, well, it's going to get really, really tiresome because we have to kill an hour basically while all these characters are trapped inside this room. But no, it's actually really inventive. They did a lot of great kind of visual pieces where Billy Zane's character, the Collector, is able to get inside people's heads and show them what they want to see. And they have a lot of fun with it. Ernest Dickerson, showing some strong work. Obviously, he's carrying on in the tradition of Assault on Precinct 13 and pretty much the entire, John Carpenter oeuvre. And he has a lot of interesting Dutch angles, more Sam Raimi than, Battlefield Earth, thankfully. So it's got a lot of energy to the frame, and it's got a lot of zazz. The soundtrack's really cool. It's got a lot of good metal and stuff on there. Great track from Machine Head. There's some Pantera on there. Filter, like I mentioned before. Gravediggers. So it's a fun, mid-90s. It's all it was great about horror in the mid-90s, especially because practical effects abounded. I mean, this was after Jurassic Park had already dropped, but the budget of this film meant that you had to work within the realm of practical effects, and there's a lot of great stuff on this Blu-ray that tells you all about it. So, I never got to pick this up on anything other than VHS back in the day. I'd meant to get the Laserdisc, and I never got a chance to. And it was just always on my list of things to pick up, and it kind of languished in the forgotten, classics film drawer. And I heard that Scream Factory was going to be putting out this and Bordello of Blood, which I'll be reviewing hopefully this weekend. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool, because there's a film that I haven't really found out much about. There's not much interesting out there for featurettes or anything like that. So it was very cool that this was coming out in high definition on Blu-ray. And there's a decent amount of extras on here. Video-wise, it's nice. I know a lot of people complain about, and not just Scream Factory, but just about everybody. Criterion, everyone's got this, insanely high level of expectation, and I hear things about clumping grain and all sorts of horrific artifacts, and coming from a guy that watches Laserdisc on a regular basis, I'm usually pretty well blown away by most of the Blu-rays that I have in my collection. I do, of course, agree with people not interested in color timing changes when the image hue and the palette is changed more towards an orange and teal. That stuff drives me crazy as well, but man, I fired this sucker up, and it's gorgeous. I mean, the detail is just striking. I did not see any clumping grain, but I saw some grain, which is great. It looked like film. It looked like I was watching a projected image from 1995. There's some decent color popping in there. I mean, it takes place entirely at night, but there's still some pieces of color. There's a few things that are like optical effects that are a little washed out. Like there's a matte shot that shows the hotel in the distance, and there's a matted sky in the background, and that's like a little soft, but everything else is razor sharp. And the really cool thing about the cinematography is that there's a lot of not full-on silhouette lighting, but there's a lot of really, really sharp, finely detailed edge lighting to the characters' faces, and it was just great seeing that, man, like microscopic line of light just like rocking completely solid on the characters' faces. And a lot of really strong details in there. Thomas Hayden Church is wearing this kind of Tyler Durden-esque mesh shirt, and you could just see all of the individual interwoven fibers, and it just has that rock solid look to it. So I was very impressed with the transfer. I mean, especially given it's a relatively low-budget picture from the mid-90s. Takes place in the dark. And it doesn't have a very strong, vivacious, Austin Powers-esque color palette. That said, there's a lot of interesting greens. The demons themselves have a very green color palette, and there's a lot of deep red, no relation to the film by Dario Argento, but there's a running theme involving blood, and that kind of creates this barrier that protects people from demons, and that has this very bright red imagery related to it. There's some great flashback scenes too that are very surreal. They were done purposefully on a set so that they looked a little artificial and abstract. Some great stuff going way back time to the crucifixion of Christ, and then there's a bit in World War I with a character that it creates these interesting little pieces, these little abstract dalliances, and keeps you entertained and intrigued throughout. Todd Masters' creature effects are really, really cool and very effective and simple. Yeah, that stuff really holds up on high definition. The film, it's just a hoot. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of the kind of zany energy of some of Sam Raimi's stuff. And Billy Zane is really just having a great time with this picture because, you know, he's playing this character as someone who's just kind of annoyed that things aren't going his way at times and just has a little bit too much fun with it. So it's great. It's very gory and like over the top, like stylized gore. There's a scene where some eyeballs get knocked out of a character and they're just kind of twitching on the floor. So a lot of crazy stuff like that. Not as crazy as Evil Dead 2, but you could see that that's in the DNA of the picture. So I definitely recommend picking it up. If you haven't seen it, you know, check it out, give it a shot. I know it took a lot of people by surprise back in the day, myself included, and it still stands up. It was really cool visiting it. So the picture looks good, but how is the audio? Freaking amazing. There's a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 track that is just killer. Very, very energetic in the surrounds. I just couldn't believe the amount of activity going around me. On a regular basis, the sound field was mixed very aggressively, at least on this release, and Gary Reber in Widescreen Review would have no problem calling it a holophonic experience. Reminded me a lot of From Dusk Till Dawn, the way the activity in the rears was really a highlight. A lot of course, lightning strikes and things like that, but it was a really creative soundtrack. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and was definitely surprised for a film. You know, I mean, they were making great dynamic film soundtracks in the 90s, but I wasn't really expecting much. I'm probably having watched this on VHS a number of times over the years. So that is a major hit. You're going to totally dig the sound on this thing. So what did Scream Factory bring to the table with the Blu-ray release? Well, there's a lot of cool stuff on there. There's an audio commentary with Michael Felsher, who does a lot of commentary moderating for even other Scream Factory releases. But he is the moderator with Ernest Dickerson, which is cool because it's cool to have somebody to kind of come up with some new topics and, you know, get them going. There's a lot of interesting information about the making of the film on that commentary track. It's cool, and you can learn more about what was cut out and Ernest Dickerson's career, how that led up to this, and what happened after it. And it was a really good reminiscence. There's another commentary track that has no moderator, but it doesn't kind of need it because it's got a whole crew. Todd Masters, the makeup effects creators, on it. Visual effects supervisor John Van Vliet is on it. Special effects coordinator Thomas Bellissimo, who had also done a lot of stuff on the TV series, and Walter Phelan, who one of the Demon performers, was on it. And it was great because it has a collaborative group of people that worked across the spectrum of production design and makeup and performance. So there are rarely moments in the commentary that, you know, there's nobody that has something to say, which is really cool. So it's not just a makeup guy. Somebody usually has some knowledge about anything that's going on. And, you know, they were on the set enough to, you know the actors and have some interesting stories there. It was cool because the film was shot inside an airplane hangar because Ernest Dickerson was reticent to put his actors through a 40-day night shoot and do the kind of thing that The Crow did and kind of really put the zap on all the people involved. So he figured if he could control the light and build this actual... He built the exterior and interior of this hotel inside this airplane hangar, and it was really cool. They're talking about a time when they put in a bunch of dirt to make those flashback sequences, and how it was a lot of manure with flies, and how that got nasty. And much like Ridley Scott's Legend, there were moments when birds nested in the rafters and caused some problems, and they had to keep firing off weapons in between shots to, you know, kind of clear out the bird noise. Really interesting stuff, and it's cool listening to the effects guys because they give you a little bit of information Yeah, you just wouldn't really hear a lot of shop talk, like when the characters are in the basement of this building. They're noticing that there's rubber cement cobwebs. The cobwebs were created using rubber cement, and how that was deemed too flammable, and the entire industry shifted away from that. So yeah, that was pretty interesting stuff. So I really dug that. There's a documentary too called Under Siege: The Making of Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. A lot of interviews. Billy Zane in particular and William Sadler both seem completely excited to be involved in the film. No Thomas Hayden Church, from what I recall. I don't think he showed up in there, but everybody and their mother involved in the making of the film is in that thing. And it's a pretty interesting history behind the film, because it wasn't the intended first Tales from the Crypt feature either. They were going to do some other things, and then this kind of like fell into everyone's lap at the last minute. The script also wasn't originally a Tales from the Crypt script. It became that. And how they had to kind of mix everything together and add the ending and beginning pieces with the Cryptkeeper, which actually wasn't directed by Ernest Dickerson. That stuff is interesting. There's a relatively brief panel discussion from an American Cinematheque screening of Dick Miller films from last year, Demon Knight and Gremlins 1 and 2, and Dick Miller, Ernest Dickerson, and Rick Baker are on the panel. It's pretty interesting, and they do cover Gremlins films just as much as they cover Demon Knight, but they do get into a little bit of it. There's a still gallery, which actually has actual stills that were used in the promotions of the film, which is pretty cool, and the theatrical trailer. So some decent stuff. Extra-wise, if there's anything I missed, it was the opportunity to see some of the deleted scenes and alternate takes that were referenced in the commentary tracks. Apparently, the ending had a whole different vibe to it, and like a fire creature, and it just wasn't working that well. And there was a few other elements here and there that were mentioned throughout the commentary, so it would have been cool to be able to see all that stuff, but there's nothing, at least I found, no deleted scenes or Easter eggs about that. It was cool that they did keep, too, at the end of the movie, the Cryptkeeper, Ferris Bueller style, pops back up and tells you to stick around in a couple months and come back and see the second Tales from the Crypt film called Dead Easy. And that was apparently a film called Fat Tuesday at one point, and New Orleans-based film. Richard Donner supposedly worked on it, and there are all sorts of different stories. One that Richard Donner actually shot it and deemed that it would be considered too racist if anybody ever saw it, and then shelved it, and then other people say it never actually got made. So it was a shock to me when Bordello of Blood was the next film, because I do remember being in the theater, seeing this twice, and at the end the Cryptkeeper's like, stick around for Dead Easy. So that was pretty cool that they didn't kind of cut that out. And again, I love the HD picture. I thought this thing looked smoking hot in 1080p, so I'm really looking forward to checking out Bordello of Blood. And yeah, man, if you are a Tales from the Crypt fan, it doesn't have, as even Ernest Dickerson mentions, the typical kind of comeuppance or the moral tale of most of the shows and the comics. It's more its own original mythology, and that's really cool. But there's a nice heaping of extras on here. The commentary tracks are very entertaining, and so yeah, if you're on the fence, I'd say give it a shot. Check it out. I know people enjoy this film more than Bordello of Blood, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But I was super excited to watch Demon Knight again. It had been far too long, and totally still a complete hoot. So thanks for hanging out. We'll be back with some more reviews and all sorts of shenaniganry. I like saying that word, shenaniganry. But thanks for all the comments again. I'm glad everybody had fun with the VHS tapes. I just realized now that I left out some. I have some at an alternate location, so I got to go and film some of those. And creeping up on the anniversary, and I'm doing the 31 horror films in the month of October challenge again, just watching some Omen stuff. So I'll be reporting back with all that soon, and I promise more Laserdiscs coming soon too. I do have a few already that I haven't shown you guys. So cheers, hope you guys are having a great time, and we'll talk to you soon.